Okay, so now we need to load some data. We need to get data into our Power BI file. Now you can load data from several different locations. It's actually very hard to find a data source that Power BI doesn't support. And when you bring the data into Power BI, there is a very strong query engine called Power Query, which allows you to transform the data in case it doesn't look that great when you bring it into Power BI. You can clean it, streamline it, tidy it, shape it using Power Query. But let's look at getting data into Power BI. And I just want to get some data in from several Excel files. So on the Home tab in your ribbon, there's a group called Data. And the most popular button is probably the Get Data button because that brings in all the common data sources. But Excel is such a common data source that it actually has its own button. So I'm going to click this Excel workbook button. Now at this point I need to locate the files that I want to bring in. So I'm just going to grab the files that we're going to use for this particular session. And the first data file I want to bring in is age in years. So I mentioned in the earlier video we're going to do a world demographics Power BI report. So I want to bring in some age in years data. So I go open. It does a connection and then what they call the navigator appears. Now the navigator is showing me three objects. I can bring in either the table called age data or the sheet called median age years. I want to bring in the table, so I give it a tick and that gives me a preview of what the data looks like. If I hit transform data, that will fire up Power Query and I'll be able to start shaping the data. But I actually just want to load it, so I'm going to go for the load option. So that's one Excel file I brought in, and once it finishes loading on the right hand side, you'll see it appear in the fields pane. This is a query here called age data with a chevron on the front, and if I click the chevron it expands it and basically tells me there's 4 columns of data in that query. 2 of them are numeric, age and year, and 2 of them are text, which is the continent and the country, and I can collapse that. Let's grab another Excel workbook. I'm going to grab the life expectancy figures. So these are the life expectancy figures that are world related for the year 1900 to the year 2100. Again, I had the choice of bringing in a worksheet or bringing in a list that's been formatted as a table. So I'm going to go for the table called life expectancy and load that. And that's 2 out of my 6 files. And I can see it now in my fields list. Let's go and grab the third file, population density per square kilometre. Navigator appears. I want to bring in the table called density, so I tick it and I load it. Fourth Excel file, Excel workbook, total population. I want to bring that in, so I click open. I want to bring in the range that's been formatted as a table called population, and I load that. And now I'm just going to grab 2 more Excel files, Excel workbook, world population statistics, and I'm going to go for world stats and load. And the final Excel workbook I want to bring in, Excel workbook years, is just a list of years that I'm going to use sort of as an index. And it is a list of years. I'm just going to bring in the sheet actually called years, which is a list of years from 1900 to 2100. So some of this data is predicted and some of it is been. So I'm going to click load. So I've brought in my Excel workbooks and I have a total of 6 queries appearing in my fields pane. Now there's some view buttons on the left hand side. We are in the report view at the moment, and that's why I see this report canvas, which is what they call this. But if I click the data view and I click a particular field, a particular query in my fields list, like density, I can see the information. So here is some density data, 1950 it would appear, to the year predicted, 2010 for Algeria. So the country and the continent. If I go for life expectancy, here are some life expectancy figures for that country and that continent for those years. So the years are going to vary. Population information is here, world statistics is here, and just a list of years is here. So the data view allows you to look at the data that's inside of each of these queries. Whereas the model view, if I go into there, that actually allows me to see the data and its relationships. I'm just going to collapse this properties task pane and this fields task pane. Now, to be able to see this all effectively, I'm going to go for this little button in the bottom right corner called Fit to Page, and that just fits everything on the page. Now, I want to move some of these. I'm going to put density down here, and I'm going to put world stats sort of in the center, and life expectancy can go down here, and population up here, and years over here. So you just drag them and place them wherever you think it makes sense. And then I'm going to fit to page again, which actually increases the size and makes it easy for me to see. So here are the relationships between these tables, and really the thing that they have in common is the country. If I rest on this line here, it goes yellow. This is the line between density and world stats. It goes yellow with the use of grey shading. It's greyed the field country and the world stats and the field country and density. So that is the field that they have in common. One world stats for that country in here relates to many density figures in here. So this is the one, and this asterisk is the many. So why there's many density figures for that one country is because that's over the course of time for different years. Here, if I rest on it, again, country is the field that the life expectancy and the world stats table have in common. And over here, if I rest on this relationship, again, country to country between world stats and population. So you can see the relationship simply by resting on the line that exists between two particular tables. It also explains these three buttons on the left-hand side. So that's model view, data view, and just click on whatever query you want to look at, and the top one, report view, which we will hang out probably 95% of the time in this particular series of videos, which is looking at creating reports and visualizations in Power BI.